sometimes you just have to try everything and do everything.
Yeah.
And knowing that some wouldn't return, you still put as much hard work as you know some might return. And who knows what will come back. And I think that is like what I really admire and appreciate for like people that have that spirit and have that attitude. Because I think most beautiful things start from just let me do everything and learn from these mistakes or learn from what, you know, I thought could have happened and didn't. Yes, I love it.
Welcome to the LMF Network podcast. My name is Sonia Barlow, the host, CEO and founder. This podcast is all about building our careers and confidence with a mission to build the careers and confidence of 25,000 people by 2025 through mentoring, masterclasses, and meaningful connections. For us, this podcast is about sharing stories, highlighting incredible figures, learning about their career journeys, how they overcome failure, rejection, and imposter syndrome, what we can do to build our confidence, be our biggest cheerleaders, and really define as well as achieve our version of success.
Welcome to LMF Network podcast. My name is Sonia Barlow, CEO, founder, and host. Today, our guest is an individual who is very much in the femtech space. We are going to talk all things funds, friendships, and female body parts. So welcome to the show, Peony. Have I said that correctly?
Yes.
Nearly or just about?
So my mum called me Peony and then everyone else in the UK called me Peony.
So which one do you prefer?
Peony is good.
Peony is good.
Yeah.
And so what do you get up to? Tell us more about yourself and your business.
Sure. So I started Jude during the pandemic, and it's all about talking stuff no one likes to talk about. And we built the company because we want to build a whole new category around bladder care. 2.3 billion people globally suffer from bladder issues. And that is overactive bladder, meaning you're going to the toilet more often than you want in the day or at night, or incontinence or bladder infection. And it is an issue suffered by so many people, including myself, at a young age. And so our industry is still diapers, pads, tenor, always, or surgery. So there's nothing in between for us to care for ourselves. And I just thought that was not good enough. So I started the company Jude to break the taboo, but also offer solutions and treatment for people to be able to access the education easily.
I mean, there's so much in there that I want to unpack. And I would start by saying that the first time I really recognized bladder issues as something that we could talk about in mainstream media was that clip of Kris Jenner and the Kardashians, which hopefully people know what I'm referring to. Is I think she's like at a petrol station or something and she's like, I'm leaking. And we didn't really know what that meant. And her kids were making fun of her. But I was like, oh, this is a real thing that happens. And then you've obviously said stats, which are astounding, but also the fact that you went through it yourself. And well, firstly, I think that's really brave of you to share because it must be really awkward to be like, hi, I have bladder issues and I'm going to say this on video.
Yeah, so I think gut health and IBS wasn't a thing until I think a few years ago.
Yeah.
A few people stood up and said like, I have bloating issues, I have IBS. And now everyone is like, I have that issue too. So like it takes a few individuals like Kris Jenner, you know, like a few other celebrities, like coming out and saying that, you know what, this is a very common issue. It's common. If we don't start talking about it, we will never get together to talk about solutions. And I think I believe in that a lot. I believe in the power of community coming together and finding ways that we can resolve something together. So yeah, that motivates me to talk about it.
No, I mean, it's super impressive. And so how do you go from I have a leaky bladder to now going and raising so much money for a company that you've created from an idea?
Yeah, so when I was young, I have a lot of chronic bladder infection, so recurring UTI, that is what it is.
So you were just on the cranberry juice, because apparently that's what they give you, right? They're like, cranberry juice will fix your life. And you're like, will it? Because it will probably maybe give me diabetes because that's so much sugar in it.
Exactly, and it's actually not clinically tested to be effective because the dosage from cranberry juice is so low and the sugar levels are so high. So I've been on cranberry juice, or actually the first time that I had it, I didn't even understand or understood the issue at all, and I felt really embarrassed. And I just constantly need to find toilets wherever I go. I miss out on a lot of social events When I go traveling, I would just need to find toilets on a beach, by the river. And it's just not life that I want to live. And after that, I've managed to find solutions to cope with my own bladder issues, which is amazing. My career started in M&A banking, which is a very traditional corporate job, which, gave me so much like foundational skills. But I knew I want to do something that impacts people. And at the time, I still didn't know it's going to be, bladders, obviously. But it's through navigating my career and getting closer and closer to what does it mean to build a business? What does it mean to build something that's going to impact people's quality of life? So after that, I went to join Founders Factory. So I was head of investments at Founders Factory, invested in over 60 startups. And from there, I can see what companies like I have an affinity to and what companies I felt less close to. After that, it didn't put me off being an entrepreneur. And I got one step further into seeing how a real life startup works. I joined a very early stage women's health business looking at endometriosis and period health. And I was head of operations, set up the business with the founder and the team. And it just opened my eyes up to a whole host of women's health issue that is underfunded, not talked about. And I believe in this theme so much that in the pandemic, I started Jude.
And then how much money have you raised since the pandemic?
Yeah, since the pandemic, we've raised about 5.3 million.
Listen, that's a wild number. It's not even a real number. It's like something you see in your bank account. Does that make sense? It's like 5.3 million is just a bunch of zeros. And that's impressive because less than 4% of VC investment and funding goes to women. And so the stats aren't really changing there. And you know that through the work that you've done in the tech space. But also they say that raising investment is like a full-time job. Like you have to be on it. You have to be ready. What was that process like for you? So did you have an MVP? Did you have a pitch deck? Did you outsource, the BD around it? Did you do it yourself? How did you overcome rejections? I mean, of course, there's a lot of questions in one, but if you could just summarize the process for us, I'm sure, everyone's going to benefit from that.
Yeah, definitely. So I did a lot of research, not just desktop research. I bought almost all the diapers that you can find in this world, and they're all in my wardrobe, and I test each and every one of them. I wore each and every one of them. I looked at what the market and the industry is like from a market research and market share point of view. But I also started talking to real life people. Some of them are in their 50s, some of them in their 70s, some of them in their 30s. And I started making a video about their stories and shot a documentary. And through that, I get to know those people really well, like beyond bladder issues, their life, what they aspire to do. And I think that is a process for me to fall in love with our customers and fall in love with customers who are not just myself. And I think that's so important because bladder issues are, experienced by people in the 30s, 20s, up to 70s and 80s. So being able to be in their shoes and selling and talking as if they're comfortable with a friend like Jude that's talking to them. So that is a lot of the prep work that I've done before I took it into a pitch deck. And I iterated probably about 90 versions of the pitch deck. And the iteration comes from, just from my lens, what works, what doesn't work, how do I want to tell a story? You're telling a bunch of amazing investors that you're going to solve bladder issues. And, the first impression and reaction usually from them is like, what is incontinence? What are you talking about? So being able to articulate your vision, articulate why this issue needs someone to solve it and why I'm the person to solve this issue much better than anyone else is really important to get it right in the first 2 minutes. And then I went out to individual angels and high net worth, probably at about the 30th version of my pitch deck, and try iterating from there on and ask their feedback. So it is a very iterative process, and it did take me about 5 months from January 2021 to May 2021 for me to close the full kind of 2 million as I started. And I had a prototype, but more of the deck is about my experience, the vision, the category, the research. I built a full financial model, 5-year plan, looking at all the levers of growth. So there's a lot of prep work that goes into it. I even did videos of our manufacturing facility and show them when it's being produced, it will be this way, we'll be using these people. So investors, when they look at the deck, they felt intrigued and curious about the opportunity and me as a person. And when I follow up with them, they see all the prep work that I've done, from customer research, those documentaries and videos that I've done, down to manufacturing videos. And they felt, I can get an understanding how it would be like working with this founder. She is a person that liked preparation, liked to do her research, doesn't just bluff her way through. And I think that is a proxy of how they can see you in your work in the future.
I love that. But were you ever at any point rejected from investors?
Yeah, I spoke to about 150 investors. And in the beginning, only 2 said yes. So there's a lot of rejections.
And how do you overcome that? Do you ever think, I'm not good enough, my idea is not good enough, what am I doing this for?
Yeah, I would say, like, as any founders trying to do their business and grow their business, there will be doubts every day. You know, is this the right product? Are customers loving it? You know, am I the right person to do this? At each phase of growth, if you're jumping out of your comfort zone, it automatically means that you won't think that you're there ready to do it. And so I think reframing that is important. The second one that I had as a bit of a, I guess, note to self is like, these investors don't know better than I do. And I turn those rejections into fuel so that I can then keep going. So it's like 2 tactics that I use, like talk to myself gently, reframing self-doubt into I'm on a learning curve.
And I think that's awesome, and that's how it should be. So you raised 2 mil to start with.
Yeah.
Listen, what do you do with 2 mil? Because if someone gave me 2 mil for my business, I think I would invest it in a team and invest it in marketing. What did you do?
I invested in a team. I also invested in quite a lot of R&D with our products.
Because you have a product, I guess, because we're a service, so that makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. So we don't just have pads and liners, we also have a supplement, and the supplement is clinically tested. We brought to market a formulation that we know is going to have a positive impact to people's overactive bladder. And working with Harvard Medical School professor, working with your gynecologists and doctors, we put together this formula, and that takes a bit of money, and we're still developing this product into a medicine so we can actually sell as a licensed medicine at an accessible price and a sort of a very welcoming format than the current very medical, I guess, branding of all the diapers and pads that people are selling. Yeah, so R&D, team, and lots of marketing. Yeah, this topic does need a lot of PR, does need a lot of headlines, and I'm trying my best to get on mainstream about bladder care. And I'm so in awe of your work, because your work gets to so many people through, you know, radio, through newspaper, through podcasts. And yeah, I'm curious, like, how you get your vision out there in the world.
I think that's a great question. And so for context, I never started a business with the intent to start a business. I started a business because I needed work friends who didn't work with me in my workspace. I needed for someone to reassure me that my career trajectory was definitely where it needs to be, or I was going in the right path. I needed a community to help me build my confidence, because I was already confident.
Yeah.
And then I went into the workspace, and I think I lost my confidence in some ways, but gained it in others. And so it was really a matter of what's the worst that can happen scenario. And I was already quite low and quite down in my sense of self, that I was like, I can't actually feel worse than this. So I can feel better. So let me do everything I can do to feel better.
Yeah.
And we didn't move it into a business in 2020, but I made a ton of mistakes. I mean, for one, I kid you not, and I say this all the time when people are like, what the hell? We lost our domain to a robot.
Oh no.
We lost our domain to a robot at the same time that my card was refreshing, the domain purchase was refreshing. I also delegated to, who was then a friend, and thought that they would handle it, and it wasn't handled. Anyways, so then the robot's like, yep, so you can buy likemindedfemales.com for $50,000. I was like, what are you talking about? This is my business. Why would I buy my business's domain? Turns out it's not my business because I didn't register, I didn't trademark it. So then I went and moved it into LMF Network. We franchised really quickly. We grew really quickly in Canada, and then we had a franchise request in Spain. But actually, I didn't know how to do form of due diligence then. So yes, I said yes to some opportunities, but no to others. And a big part as to why we've grown is because I'm quite honest about the mistakes that we've made.
Yeah.
And I think before we go raise for investment, or before we go and seek partnerships and sponsors, if I can make mistakes on my own funds as a woman, I think it makes it easier for me to to walk into those rooms and say, this is what I'm going to do with your money. But also it makes me creditable. I think it builds respect. It makes you reliable. I can be quite transparent because I'm building a people-first business that has a service offering to it. And around 2021, we had clients reach out for our consultancy work. And so a percentage of our consultancy work actually funds the community. So our community side is 100% not-for-profit. We've upskilled about 20,000 people using resources, tools, virtual recordings, all the way to in-person workshops. And a big part as to why I got the gig on the radio, or I've been in newspapers, or I've written a book, is because I wasn't afraid to ask, but I also wasn't afraid to do the work. I'll do the research beforehand, but I'm more of a learn on the job type of person.
Yeah.
So I'm less of a let me know everything that goes on beforehand. I'm going to start a business and I don't really have the skills, but I'm going to learn as I go along. But I'm going to give myself a year. And my first grad job, I got £30,000. That was my base salary. So I made that the equivalent of my business. I was like, my first year is going to be a success if I'm able to generate £30,000. That was my KPI, and I was able to hit that.
Yeah.
And then I just started using social media and branding myself accordingly online. But also you get exhausted. And going back to your point about being kind to yourself, in 3 years I've done quite a lot. But now in 2023 it was like, okay, but what do I really want to focus on? And what's really going to help us grow with the highest impact, the lowest labor, doing what I enjoy, and also what's personal to me. So one reason we have this visual podcast is because, yes, people have wanted us to have it for ages. I wasn't ready. But now I'm like, if I want these opportunities to host or to present, if I want to get in front of the right or relevant customer, if I want to help you hear my story, but also the testimonials of people and, interviewing amazing women like yourself who are clearly doing stuff that everyone needs to know about, I can only do it through this forum. And so it's also about prioritizing tasks and work and workload and taking a step back. And I guess, there was a point where you try and do anything and everything. And I think I did. But maybe that's how I work. And I was like, let me try and do anything and everything. And then I take a step back and think, what am I good at naturally? Where does it align to my business motive? What does our next 5 years look like? And what should we therefore focus on?
I love how real it is. Sometimes you just have to try everything. And do everything. And knowing that some wouldn't return, you still put as much hard work as some might return. And who knows what will come back. And I think that is what I really admire and appreciate for people that have that spirit and have that attitude. Because I think most beautiful things start from just let me do everything and learn from these mistakes, or learn from what, I thought could have happened and it didn't. Yes, I love it.
And I also think no one teaches you to be a CEO or a business founder or a manager. I really have personally struggled managing a team, because I like to be people's friends. I'm a really good mentor. I'm a great leader. But a manager has different skill sets. And so learning that on the job whilst then managing clients, building businesses, thinking about what growth looks like. And a big part of it as to why, and I only answer this question because I get a lot of people in my DMs actually being like, we want to invest in LMF Network. We want to, when are you raising capital? We want to be a financial advocate. And I'm like, I'm not doing it right now because I don't feel like I'm ready, because I kind of want to make mistakes with the freedom that I have, with the independence that I have now, before people try and tell me where to go, how to move, and how to be strategic. And I only raised that point because I was with a friend last year who'd raised money. And I was like, hey, so when's your next holiday? She's like, holiday? I'm like, yeah, don't you go on holiday and don't you enjoy what you're building? And she's like, no. She's like, I've got investors. They really count every single penny. I don't really take a holiday. And I was like, oh, I like business expense all my holidays because it's a business expense, because I actually find business wherever I go. And she's like, no, I don't do that. And my advisors don't really recommend it. And we've got a 3-year exit plan. And I was like, oh, so I don't know if I'm ready for that level of relationship with somebody where I want to go on a holiday next month, or I've got a gig in Amsterdam, which is business, and then I want to extend it out as a holiday, but I'm not able to. Is that the same or similar with your advisors? I mean, have you ever faced challenges now that you're raising investment as to how much freedom and independence you actually have as a business founder?
Yeah, my relationship with our investors are quite different. I think the context is that you made a promise to your financial advocates and your investors that you want to make that impact to the world. And you're going to be responsible for how you spend that money. They also made a promise to me that they're going to be part of my journey. It's my journey. And so they trusted me enough to invest in how I'm going to allocate, a few very important resources. One is their money. Second, my time. And so time is one unit of measurement around productivity. Energy is a different unit of like measurement for, productivity. And after kind of like years of working, I understood like my working pattern is sprint and then downtime and then sprint and downtime. So I need to take my holidays for me to sprint as fast as I can. And I need to take breaks for me to bring like personality that is caring, empathetic, still, challenging, but positively. And, in an exciting way that my team can feel like we're on a mission. And if I'm tired and I'm always thinking about a 3-year exit plan, that's not going to translate to partners and team members to join me on actually lifting the quality of life for so many women out there. That it just doesn't translate. So I think the narrative, you need to set your own narrative with your investors. You need to let them know. Obviously, you don't tell them, I'm going to Bali for 2 weeks because I need a downtime.
So you don't tell them that?
No.
How do you finesse it?
I do tell them, for the bank holiday, I'm taking a bit of a break and I'm excited about it. But if I'm taking a slightly longer holiday, I will make sure I like spread my time with working during the holidays, because I also like doing that, because now I want to stay closer to the business. And it's not a lie. Like, I don't want to lie about, having fun and working at the same time. But at the same time, like managing people who have high hopes like for you, it's also a skill, right? You want to report all the wins, and then you want to then combine it with some losses, and then you want to combine with some exciting opportunities, and then you want to then tell them how you're feeling. And people want to see you being confident about where you're going to go, excited about where you're going to go. And sometimes you're not going to be confident. Sometimes you're not going to be excited. So you would still have to put up a bit of a face to be like, I'm confident that we can reach that, and we will try everything that we can to reduce our marketing spend and to grow, our company, and, to march break even and profitability, and to give them the best case scenario. And they are investors, so they're really good at dumbing down those assumptions and protecting their downsides. But if you're telling them your worst case scenario, then they'll be like, whoa, if I use that to then dumb down those assumptions again, then I'm not going to invest. I don't have, confidence. And I think for a founder, there will be times that you're more confident about yourself and your business. Sometimes you're not. So if I then draw this curve again with confidence levels, then just do a straight line and just understand things will be smooth over. Yeah.
I feel like you're saying that to me, and I needed to hear that. So I love that.
I'm saying it to myself.
I know.
As well.
And this is one thing that I really wanted to get out of this discussion. And prior to us recording, you asked me how long we've been doing this for. And I mentioned that we've done our first 10 episodes, which for me was like a taster tested pilot. And now I'm doing these next episodes in a different way. And it's because I found that I want this conversation to be really transparent, really open. And I'm really tired of the false, pretty aesthetic narrative that I see online. And I'm like, okay, but I run a business and it's really not that easy. It's easy because I love what I do and I'm damn passionate about it. And I will wake up, I will be awake all night getting a pitch deck or proposal done because I believe in my concept. But also, when I feel like I want downtime and I want to go to my mom's house, I will also cancel all my meetings in my calendar and I will go. Because like you said, your performance is based on how you do the work. And if you show up and do the work and you put the time and effort in, you're good. Yeah. It's not the number of days it takes, but it's the quality of the outcome. But I want people to know that it's not just pretty flowers and, fun times. There's a lot of that, of course. Yeah. But there's a lot of long nights and a lot of rejections. Yeah. And a lot of the mistakes that you've made along the way. You're in the space of femtech. Femtech was a made-up word that was created a few years ago and coined because we didn't really have we didn't have the tech that really supported the problems that women and kind of non-binary folk go through. And yet we still have to justify it.
Yeah. So I think there are like pros and cons about this word femtech. So as you know, 4% of VC funding goes to women. It's only in 1993, it's made illegal to not accept women to go into clinical trials. Before that, clinical trials can say, you're a woman, your body is deemed unfit for scientific purposes. And so what that means is like most of the drugs that we take, prescription medication, when tested in our bodies weren't tested in how our hormones interact with the drug. So we suffer from more side effects than men, and we're changing that dialogue. And so Femtech is, the benefit of it is now everybody is trying to put a market trend behind Femtech. We're saying this word, and we have a community behind Femtech founders, women's health, and that's all amazing. But I would really love to see one day where, this word doesn't have its usage and purpose anymore because it's in the mainstream and it's just like health tech. So that's kind of what I hope I can contribute to the trend. And going back to your point about on social media, like on LinkedIn, there's so many different types of, I guess, conversation and dialogue going about like how should a founder operate in a day? You should be waking up at like 8 and sleeping, 9-10 hours a day so that you have enough energy. Don't work the weekends. That's going to give you more energy. The truth is, like, we are all different individuals that have different productivity and work patterns. And one might advocate, a set of patterns that work for you. But for me, like, it just doesn't work that way. I stay up sometimes all night and it's not good for my body. And I know that. But when I'm in the flow, I'm more sparky in the evening than in the morning.
Oh, you are?
I am.
You
I'm
think
like
you're
a bit
an
of a
evening
night
person?
out. Yeah, I'm definitely an evening person.
Were you always like that?
I think so. Yeah.
I only asked that because I thought I used to be a night owl, and I did a lot of night owlness, especially at university. And when I got into the world of work, and then I actually started night owling, I was like, this is not me. But I can be awake at like 5 a.m. and I will be up and I'll be cheery, and you will think that I've already ran like a 5K and I'm ready to go. But now I've come to a point where I'm like, after 7 p.m. I'm useless. Like, I'm just a useless person unless I really need to get something done. At 10 p.m. I'm in bed. Like, I do not mess around with my bedtime anymore because, like you said, you have to think about how to best manage your own body and your energy levels.
I love to get some tips on how to regulate that as well.
Well, I think my regulation comes from the fact that I need to regulate it because I have chronic migraines and I have ADHD. And I'm a business founder.
Yeah.
And I'm a presenter and I'm an author and I'm a content creator and I'm whatever my brain wants me to be the next day. But for me, I have to do it so that I can not only be my version of productive, but so I can get my brain and my body to rest.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it actually then impacts my health. And so for me, Femtech is not just an industry where we're shining a light on the products that are coming out that will support the health of women, but it's also shining a light on the health problems that already occur in women and the misdiagnosis and the miscommunication and the lack of women in these clinical trials. Like, it's 2023 and I'm having to justify that I have chronic migraines to every neurologist that I meet because they're like, you can't have it. You seem way too happy. You're smiling all the time. You're not in the version of pain that we've seen, or you're getting by. I'm like, I'm getting by because I have to get by because I manage a team and I need to make sure they're paid, I manage my calendar accordingly, but it's being honest about it. And even with the ADHD, a lot of women have not been taken into studies when it comes to ADHD, and especially a lot of brown women. So how are you going to know that you have ADHD? And recently they're like, we need you to send us your school reports. I was like, do you think my school in the 1990s and early 2000s were writing reports and they had a computer for them to put it into? It's probably, handwritten somewhere.
Yeah.
And I was high achieving as a student. At that point, schools were just happy if you were high achieving, you became gifted and talented. It didn't matter if you spoke for a living, which I did even back then. It didn't matter that you chatted away or that you debated or that, interrupted or that you had a temperament, because you were getting your work done. And turns out that's a lot of the symptoms for women that are going through the diagnosis at this point. So I think for me, Femtech, yes, it's a trend behind it.
Yeah.
I'm just hoping that the trend behind it means that we invest more into women, because I can't understand why we're still at 4% when it comes to investment, but also how males who found Femtech companies are raising money. And I've seen it. Have you seen the...
I have. And I want to ask you, do you have a hypothesis why only 4% of women got VC funding?
I think I have a lot of hypotheses. I don't know if any of them are true. And I think a big part of it is, so the conversations I have within our own community. One is because women don't feel comfortable enough even going and putting in the time and the effort to raise investment, not because they don't think they're good enough, but because they've faced rejection quite early on. And so stats are already against them, right? So you're like, if it's 4%, I might as well be the 96 that isn't even going to try, but I'm going to go raise partnership or kind of sponsorship fees otherwise. I think outside of that, it's your own lack of confidence.
Yeah.
It's the lack of networks. It's the lack of career knowledge. I think there's a lot of due diligence that comes with women raising. And I only know this because I run workshops in the VC industry. And I kid you not, there are stats to say that if women come and ask for money or ask for a promotion or ask for a job, and they have a wedding ring or an engagement ring on, you think that they're going to want to have kids, and so they're going to want to leave. So there's maternity bias.
Yeah.
But I've also worked with VCs who have been really honest about the fact that they have that bias when women come and ask for money, and that they specifically don't want to invest in women because they feel like, well, she might want to get pregnant and she's going to leave our business for a couple of years. So the lack of exit straight away. And I think outside of that, honestly, it's because we're now at this position where we're debating, do we want freedom in our relative sense, or do we want financing, which means that we won't necessarily have that freedom for 3, 5, 7, 10 years. That's just the, I guess, in summary, the conversations that I've been a part of and introductions I've had. I know that when companies have taken me out to see if I want to raise investment, what they tend to do is they tend to really like compete or put you in competition with others. They're like, but what are you doing different to this business? I'm like, our business model is completely different. They're like, oh, but their marketing's like X, Y, Z. I'm like, yeah, but they've also raised 3.4 million and they've been around for 10 years. I've been around for 3 years. I'm profitable every single year. And I've organically increased our marketing without paid advertisements. Oh, but they've got this many followers. Yeah, but they've been around for 3 years. I had no social media before 2020 and I've got this many. So let's think about the data, the trends, the analysis. Sometimes it's very surface level. It's like what you see is what you get. And I think women generally aren't as great as like promoting themselves or complimenting their great achievements. And so it's harder to know what their wins and accolades are.
And I think it's telling people that, no, you're wrong. This is why I can tell you why I'm right. And I think that is something I've learned a lot. And I suppose if I rewind back 5 years ago, I probably wouldn't be able to raise 2 or 5 million. But I put myself in the position of knowing how other VCs work by being one of them, by working in that environment, because I aspire to build a company one day. And I know that could be one route of how I can make something start very quickly. And so I worked at Founders Factory for 3 years and I met, I think, over 2,000 founders, spoke to probably all the VCs in London about how they view companies, what are the lingo that they want to do. And so I believe it's really about empowering women with the knowledge of what it looks like when you're getting, a VC investment, and what are the kind of expectations that they would have for a person that's running a business with VC money. And once they've digested all that information, empowering them with the skills and the tactics and the knowledge, then go for what they actually chose for. And I do feel like we're doing better and better with networks, with communities, with education. And so I'm excited to see how this 4% can grow. The institutional, stigma around freedom and, women and pregnancy, I think that is something that I would love to, see in the next few years. If I personally go through that, what would that look like?
And when that time does come, we'll get you back on to see what your journey looks like. One thing that I've started doing in our show is I've started doing would you rather questions. So these are fireside chats, and they also bring up a different alternative. So the first one is, would you rather spend a weekend without your phone or without your laptop?
A weekend without my phone would be quite nice.
Would be nice.
Yeah.
But you'd still be on your laptop. So you'd be able to see everything. I mean, WhatsApp web desktop has changed my life.
Yeah.
And even if your phone is dead, your WhatsApp still works.
I guess I can also decide not to do WhatsApp on my desktop and just deep work laptop without any additional noise. That would be quite nice.
Would you rather spend a day as Kim Kardashian or Paris Hilton?
Ooh, Kim Kardashian.
Oh, why?
I just want to see how she lives. I want to see, behind all the sort of media, what does she do every day and how much work does she actually...
Do you rate her as a businesswoman?
I do. I think I do. I think I rate her as a person. I'm not sure about a personality on TV, but I rate her as a person. I think she reinvented herself so many times. She has a family and she still strives for what is best for her, and she built multiple businesses and now have a private equity fund. I think that is impressive.
And I think a big part of that is also, I like the fact that something occurred in your life, planned or not planned, whatever the circumstances were, but how have you been able to finesse that, right? Because some people can go through really terrible life experiences or challenges and circumstances outside of their control. They might run away from it, but actually in this case, they finessed it and made it into a whole brand, a whole marketing spiel, and brought the whole family along. And there's something about bringing your whole family along in that journey, which for me is quite impressive. And again, this is not about her as an influencer or a personality, but there is no denying that she has used and abused and taken advantage of the cards that she's been dealt.
Yeah.
But also sometimes that is a business person.
Yeah.
And it makes a lot of sense. My last question, would you rather know what you will be doing in 5 years in the future or take life as it comes?
Take life as it comes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
As someone who's raised investment, running a femtech business, has strategic partners, has a clear vision, you wouldn't want to be in a position where you know exactly what Jude looks like in 5 years' time.
That wouldn't be fun.
No.
That wouldn't be fun at all.
Running a business is fun.
Running a business, so I ask myself this question probably all the time, like, where would I be in 5 years? Would I have a family? Like, I don't know. But then that is the fun of life. You're not supposed to know what's going to happen tomorrow. And if you don't know, that's why you're going to put all your best today. And if you're experiencing harder times in life, you also don't know what tomorrow's going to be, because tomorrow's going to be so much better, maybe. And I often tell myself, it is because of this element, and I want to exert my control on things that I can control to shape what the next 5 years is going to look like. But I then also humbly know that's probably 80% or 70% of like what I wouldn't be able to know. And I think being able to, submit to that fact is quite comforting at times.
That brings me on to my final two questions. And I'm only bringing this up because someone asked me it, and I'd love to ask you it. Given your responses, but also given the fact that you are an entrepreneur and a founder and someone who's raised money, do you think you're delusional?
Yeah. I think I'm delusional.
Like, yes, I am
delusional.
Do you think to be in this game, you have to be delusional?
I think you have to imagine things that don't exist. And you have to believe in what your imagination so much that you're willing to do anything to make it happen. And there's an element of delusional in this, right? Like before I started Jude, I don't even want to tell my friends I'm starting an incontinence brand. Like, what's the purpose of that, I'm just going to do it. And I want to show, okay, my delusion has turned into reality. Hey. And now I'm being delusional again because we have so many big plans that we want to do. And look at how I'm going to turn it into reality.
And my final question for you is, there are plenty of women out there that are capable and confident and ready and just wanting to take that next step when it comes to going and raising money, getting investors, and really like stealth mode scaling their business. What would your advice be to them specifically?
Yeah, I think fall in love with what you do. And make sure you do something to remind yourself that you're falling in love with the business. Because whether you're raising VC money, you're bootstrapping, it's going to be hard. And knowing the why is so important, whilst cliche. But so make yourself fall in love with what you do every day is important.
Thank you. I mean, I've really enjoyed this conversation. In summary, fall in love with what you're doing, be that your business, your career, or idea. Be slightly delusional. Have fun in the process. You don't want to know what's coming up tomorrow, but you want to do your best today. Raising money takes a lot of resilience, hard work, overcoming mistakes and failures, but also knowing that you're good enough and ask for help where need be. And if you don't know what you don't know, go and put yourself in that situation and do that time of research, working for somebody else, or the graft work before you then go and take that step. But most importantly, take that break and know how your energy levels work. And I think a big part of what I've taken away is business is, it doesn't look the same for everybody. But if you can bring your own founder fit and your story into it, if you know exactly how you work and you work best and you can be quite transparent and honest about that, you're here to flourish. So Peony, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I also really enjoyed this.
Yes. So if anyone and everyone, I'm sure they do, want to find out more about Jude and the work that you're doing, how can they find you?
So you can go to our website, wearejude.com. You can also send me a DM on LinkedIn.
And a question I forgot to ask you, which I'm going to ask you now, is why is it called Jude?
Yeah, it's inspired by the song Hey Jude. So it's a song loved by different people from different generations. And during the chorus, everybody sings along. And that's exactly what I want to happen with this issue, bladder health, that we want to do.
Are you going to sing it for us?
hey, Jude. That's it.
Well, thank you so much. This is the LMF Network podcast. Like, subscribe, and share. Tell a friend. Get in touch with Jude. Let them solve all your bladder problems. From our side, please make sure that if you have any questions, queries, if you'd like to get involved as a guest, or you want to sponsor because we are that amazing that you should be a part of what we are building, drop me a line, hello@lmfnetwork.com, and I will see you very soon.
Learn more about the podcast, get involved and listen via our website www.lmfnetwork.com. You can follow us across all socials at LMF Network. Remember to like, subscribe, share and tell a friend. Get involved and drop us your comments or questions so that we can make sure that it's really adding value to your lives.